we're going to look at Lemonade's AI advantage and answer the question, could Lemonade 100x? Welcome to my channel, The Paper Bag Investor, where we're always looking for the next multi-bagger investment for your portfolio. Don't take my advice, not personal financial advice, but I have been investing since about 2009 with a 30% compound annual growth rate over that time. Wow. If you get value out of this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, feel free to join my growing Patreon community. Every tier gets the same benefits in my Patreon, but the lowest price tiers are fixed for the amount of people that can sign up. So there is incentive to sign up now. Stick around to the end of the video to hear exactly my plan for Lemonade going forward and whether or not I think Lemonade could do a 100x. All right, we're going to listen to some clips from Lemonade CEO Daniel Schreiber, and I'll give further illustration throughout.
I think 2 or 3 years ago, if you spoke to leaders of incumbent insurance companies, they'd heard of Lemonade, everyone asked them about it, and they'd pay us the backhanded compliment of saying they're good at PR and they've got a nice app. And the implication was these guys don't get insurance. You know, this is kind of a fleeting thing. And I think what they fail to understand is that that neat app generates about 100 times more data than a human broker-based interface would.
My first thought when I hear this is data is extremely valuable, but only if it is usable, actionable data that can actually create clear insights. I love Lemonade, but just because they have 100 times more data than a traditional broker doesn't mean they have 100 times the actionable data. But we'll learn more through the interview. Let's continue.
So one of the insights that the insurance industry has learned and that we take full advantage of is that being a responsible human being is a generalized condition. And what I mean by that is, so for example, 20 years ago or so, the insurance industry learned that credit scores are highly predictive of kitchen fires. You say, what on earth is the connection? And the connection is that people who pay their bills on time, also lock their doors, also clean their gutters, and also don't leave candles unattended to on the kitchen table. Being a responsible human being is a generalized condition. So any signal that you can pick up that somebody is a responsible human being is predictive of insurance risks by and large. Now,
this is essentially how insurance is priced. Data is collected, data is analyzed, and where there is a clear correlation between any data signal, such as a credit score, for example, and probability of an insurance claim between that signal and a claim, the insurance underwriter uses that to model and help predict risk.
When you're sitting in front of a human broker and buying home insurance, they'll ask you anywhere between 20 and 40 questions, but you will be emitting many more signals. You know, are you fidgeting or are you paying attention? When the broker is explaining the coverages, are you busy on Facebook or are you listening? Do you ask no questions, dumb questions, or smart questions? And you're just emitting signals all the time, which are entirely lost in the ether and left in the room there because she's busy just answering the questions that she has on the template in front of her. When you do everything digitally, none of that is lost.
You can see where this is going. As Daniel describes, with a traditional broker, it's very manual and surface level. They ask standard questions, maybe run a credit check, etc. But if the insurer's entire system is instead, it's vertically integrated, one seamless system for organizing everything, you can easily control and look at all kinds of very nuanced data situations that a traditional legacy broker would have no chance of capturing. He gives some great examples.
I'll give you a few hypotheticals because we don't talk about this. It's, as I said, it's a bit of secret sauce, but 2 people come to Lemonade from Google. One searched for good insurance, one searched for cheap insurance. Is that a signal about what kind of risk they represent? One came at 2 a.m., one came at 2 p.m. Is that a signal? One went through the entire process in 60 seconds, one did 5 minutes. One read everything carefully before signing, one not, etc., etc. So all of these things are gathered over time, and then the machine learning does what it does, and it finds the deep correlates. And we find that some of these things are incredibly predictive. There's one button that some people press and some people don't, and the loss ratio is 100% difference between those who do and those who don't. You get some really powerful signals, And then you get others on that on aggregate add up to a pretty powerful signal.
I actually hate the words artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning because for many companies, they feel just like vague buzzwords. For many companies, it isn't overly clear to the investor how in detail on AI and their AI strategy works. I love Lemonade because the actual details of their AI strategy makes sense. See, for Lemonade, it's all about this extremely vertically integrated system. One clear system that runs everything. And by aligning this one system, they can capture as much digital data as possible and then find as many signals as possible and then correlate between the signals or multiple signals together. So now they can take all these signals, beat the Google search pattern to arrive, how a customer arrived at Lemonade's website based on what they searched for, or the button that some people press and some people don't when they're doing the sign up process, or the time of day the customer is signing up at, or the location the customer is signing up from, or how long they spend reading the fine print or not, or the third-party API system that they buy the product through, depending on what that is. All of these signals can add up on top of the traditional questions to make a much more nuanced and powerful underwriting system. It's night and day versus what a traditional broker would have.
So number one is just the digital experience produces stunning amounts of data that turn out to be highly predictive and cannot be replicated if you aren't built on a digital substrate.
This is why legacy insurance companies long term are screwed. I don't see them making a transition to a fully vertically integrated system anytime soon, if ever, and so they'll always be lacking this advantage of signals.
The second piece is there's something incredibly difficult about growing a business higgledy-piggledy over decades and through acquisitions and trying to smash together systems as incumbents typically have done. And I was speaking to one CEO of a large insurance company, and he was talking about how they spend $3 billion a year on IT. We don't think of IT as anything, we don't talk about IT much, but $3 billion a year, and honestly, he's got nothing to show for it. And he's doing that because he's got this spaghetti code. It's no fault of his own. This is just the reality with which he has to contend. Spaghetti code written in COBOL from the 1980s that they have to try and deal with. And I said to him, we've used a fraction of that to build a black box, and you've got a black hole. It's just something you throw money into.
The challenges of trying to rework a legacy system cannot be overstated. It's extremely difficult to do. It's much easier to start from scratch, but I don't see legacy insurance companies ever doing this, actually starting from scratch and building their own black box. And here's why. Legacy companies fail to adapt, and in our Lemonade example, build a new seamless system for two reasons that I explained in a previous video. I'll just touch on here. Number one is they lack expertise from core leadership in the new area that they're developing. And number two, it's conflicting internal interests. So what do I kind of mean by these two things? Lack of expertise from core leadership. By this, I mean the most important decision makers of a legacy company usually have limited to no expertise in the new area of change. In this case, it's building this seamless, vertically integrated digital structure that takes a lot of software expertise, a lot of very careful design expertise. The decision makers have no expertise in these areas and really wouldn't even have the expertise to know who are the correct people, the very best people in the world to hire to build it for them either. And then conflicting internal interests is, these are large legacy companies are filled with longtime staff that don't actually want to necessarily see change. Some of these staff might be 5-10 years from retirement and would be happy to have little or no change whatsoever to their daily life, to their job, to the rest of their career. Changes at these companies, such as building this black box system from scratch, like we're talking about, would also literally mean much of the workforce would have to be laid off as the system maybe becomes more efficient. So you're literally cannibalizing your own system. You're changing so that you can lose your own job. Very difficult decision to make for people at the staffing level and for executives of that company to make that sort of vision and execute towards that vision, because at the end result could be a major part of your staff actually is laid off. So there's like a lot of conflicting internal interests there in those companies.
And that brings me to the second thing is not only being built on a digital substrate, but having a single unified system. So at Lemonade, we have this customer cortex where all insights about our customers are combined. And when you click on a marketing campaign, or when you call in or write into our customer support experience, and whether you paid your bills on time, and what claims you've made, and what questions you asked, and every part of the flow is all unified into a single place, so that what your behavior was when you bought a policy can impact what policies we'll recommend to you further down the road, whether you get a claim paid in 3 seconds, or whether we're going to make an appointment to come and see you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the single unified system is an incredibly powerful thing, incredibly, incredibly powerful.
I love the examples he gives as the practical output that Lemonade can use from having a unified digital system. Obviously, if all the signals add up together to mean that a customer is a very safe customer, meaning they are unlikely to have an insurance claim, then Lemonade will actively advertise to and push those customers for more products and new products. If all the signals show that the customer is a very unsafe customer, meaning they are likely to have an insurance claim, then Lemonade will avoid having that person sign up for more products, for one. And if the signal points to the customer having more likely to exaggerate or make misleading insurance claims, then of course the system, they can just set it so it's going to flag any claims to have a human review them carefully, which helps avoid insurance fraud.
Definitely agree with Michelle that it's still early days, and you just have to look at the total market size, $5-point-something trillion business. Our competitors are doing $100 billion a year and have been doing that for 100, 200 years. So this is a prize worth fighting for, but none of us, all the insurtechs combined, we've barely made a dent on this. In my mind's eye, this is somewhat akin to Amazon circa 96, 97. Not that any one of our companies necessarily becomes Amazon, but just that you're dealing with incumbents that are not going to disappear overnight. Now, 20, 30 years later, we still see retail exists. And I don't think incumbents are going to evaporate, not overnight and not in the next 20 years either. But that if you had a chance to invest either in insurtech or in incumbents, it's going to be very clear and ever more clear with the passage of time where the better, smarter investment is. Because, and this comes back to that backhanded compliment and the nice app and all of that, as with Lemonade, in my mind's eye, somebody at Walmart back in 95 said, oh, do you see these guys with a new website? Hey, Jimmy, you know HTML, go set up a website. And what they failed to understand, is that Amazon wasn't about being a website. HTML doesn't fix it. It's a company that's built on entire different disciplines, different culture, different technology. IT isn't a cost center, it's the core of the entire business. And that thing starts spinning, and when it spins fast, it throws out outcomes that mean that 30 years later, Amazon is even more different than it was back then. And rather than closing the gap has just grown and they've diverged. And I think something similar is going to happen in the insurance space in the decades to come.
This is what gets me excited. There is massive potential ahead for companies like Lemonade, because I feel we're still in the very early innings of the insurance tech space. I don't think legacy insurance companies will properly adapt. Like Daniel says, they will likely be around and still surviving decades from now, but I don't see them making a true switch. Lemonade, in my opinion, it's by far the best retail insurance tech company I've seen, and this is not an accident. It takes very careful design and consideration to build the system that they have. Even if another startup comes and builds a comparable system for retail insurance, the market is big enough for Lemonade to still have massive success and still be other major players in the space. Daniel's comparison of the insurtech space to Amazon and retail in 1997 is a good example. Amazon is up about 1,000x since then. If we look out 2 to 3 decades from now, for Lemonade, could possibly go 100x or more over that time when you're looking 2-3 decades from now. So what's my plan as the paper bag investor? I am holding my shares and adding more shares. After Tesla, this is the company I am most bullish on. There are certainly risks with Lemonade and things I will be watching as time goes on and giving you guys updates on, so make sure you subscribe for those. But overall, I think it's possible Lemonade could do 100x from where it's at now. What do you think of Lemonade and their AI advantage? Let us know in the comments down below. Send me a direct message on Twitter if you want, or tag me on Twitter. I read all your comments and messages. I appreciate you, each one of you. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Have a great day, and remember, it's in the bag.